All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we will cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just down the street from our studios here at the X Zone Broadcast Network. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and on all social media sites right across the internet, X Zone Radio TV. Exonation tonight, my first guest is Dr. Bob Davis. We're going to be venturing into the fascinating intersection of science and the unknown. Dr. Bob Davis, a respected sensory neuroscientist, researcher, and author, whose work explores not just how the brain processes sight, sound, and sensation, but also how it might tap into deeper levels of reality. From consciousness studies to reports of near-death experiences and UFO encounters, Dr. Davis brings a rare scientific lens to the extraordinary phenomena. Get ready to challenge what you think you know about the mind, perception, and the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil. Please welcome with me Dr. Bob Davis to the X Zone. And Dr. Bob, welcome back to the X Zone. As you and I were discussing before we went on air, it's been a couple of years.
Yes, it has been, and it's a pleasure to be with you and your audience. Thank you for the invitation.
Dr. Bob, can you give our listeners a quick overview of what sensory neuroscience is and what drew you to this fascinating field?
Well, it's essentially it's a relationship between structure of the brain and function.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially the bottom line. What different parts of the brain subserve what type of activity, whether it's motor, sensory, memory, or among others. I was always drawn to science. Got into the science fiction genre. And a few professors saw that I had some potential. It took me under their wing, and I did primarily research in the neurosensory sciences, looking at electrophysiological activity of the brain and tissue. Again, trying to establish that kind of relationship. But once I retired as a professor, Rob, I had those three remarkable experiences, which changed my whole perspective, which we'll address, I'm sure, over the course of the hour.
Doctor, how do our senses shape the way we perceive reality, and how reliable is that perception, neurologically speaking, that is?
Well, it's perfect for a 3D reality, which we exist in.
Mm-hmm.
We evolved, of course, from the planet, and it's so we have strict, limited bands of say, let's say, for sound, it's the low is 20 hertz that we can hear to as high as 20,000 hertz, which is the highest pitch that we can hear. Yet we know, of course, that energy exists beyond those limits, but we simply can't perceive it. That's true for all our sensory systems. They have their limited bandwidth. And some people have a little bit wider and with with certain senses that serves as an advantage. Um, there's even theories now abound that autistic children have wider bandwidths and are capable of extrasensory perception or ESP, believe it or not. And that's in the telepathy tapes, which is now the number one podcast in America. Not that I'm plugging it, but it's an astounding finding in a sense. And my good friend, Dr. Diane Powell, she's a neuropsychiatrist. She's the brainchild behind this. She actually lost her medical license for her belief in ESP, and they denounced her. She lost her license, and now she's proving that indeed children who are autistic have extrasensory perception. She knows a 5-year old who can calculate the cube root of a five-digit number.
Wow.
She knows a 6-year-old who speaks 5 or 6 different languages without any prior exposure to language. It's these kinds of weird uh, uh, events and experiences where parents believe that the child is reading their minds, and the children say it just pops in the head. The answer just pops in my head, and Diane takes that kind of information, as wild as it sounds, just pops in the head. It implies that there might very well be an information field that where the past, present, and even future experiences coexist and are maintained somehow. At least that's what she proposes, among other scientists as well. Uh, how that's what it reminds me of this scene in the movie The Rain Man, as you may recall, when the something fell on the floor
Yes.
and it was marbles, right?
Yeah.
And it was hundreds of them, and he didn't he knew automatically what the answer was, and he was right. There, it's not
Yeah.
it's not there's truth to that. So does the correct do answers always exist? And if they do, how do we, as so-called non-autistic humans, or the 99% of us, utilize that skill if it exists and if it's independently verified by other scientists? And that's what we do need, independent verification, before we can say with certainty. But right now, it's a buzzword,
It
these
is.
telepathy tapes.
When we were
Yeah,
talking about Rain Man, of course, that was with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman, a great movie. But
right.
why did that doctor lose her license?
Uh, she held strict views on extrasensory perception. That's what her excuse was. That so she was pursuing research that they didn't agree with, and wasn't granted tenure,
Oh
so
my
she
God.
lost her job. So that's what publish or perish kind of environment, and it worked to her disadvantage. But she tried to prove them wrong. She was motivated to prove that ESP does in fact exists, and in fact it does exist. We see this in many other types of experiments, not unique to her. Dean Raid, in particular, has done many experiments proving that ESP is real. And the American Psychological Association also recognized that ESP is valid, and the experiments done in parapsychology proved that it is valid. Is not is not not it's not a cause of fraud. There's no manipulation of the data. It is excellent science that they thus agree that it should be a separate scientific discipline, parapsychology, that is, because there are numerous well-defined scientific research articles that are published in various journals that are very meritorious and highly scientific, proving without a doubt that ESP is real. I can go in detail, but I'd bore your audience with the details of the experiment. But what's interesting too is that the observer can alter the a subatomic particle just by observation alone, which Einstein defined as spooky action at a distance. So the subjective experience must be combined with the physical, the Newtonian physics which we work under, and it needs to become an integrated approach because the essence of what is that? Is that your brain? Who I am? Is that your
Hmm.
brain, or is that an epiphenomenon of the brain, or is it you telling your brain? Um, the question, a statement or event that takes place. What is primary? And in my mind, we have this debate where I believe that consciousness is primary. Mass, energy, matter are all derivatives of consciousness, but materialists, which we operate under, Newtonian physics is a materialistic type of paradigm we operate under. It's good for 3D environments. It works, but it doesn't consider the subjective experience or the extraordinary human experiences that people have. And that's what our documentary, The Consciousness Connection, on Amazon Prime right now gets into.
All
The
right, we're
integration.
going to talk more about your
Sure.
your movie as well as your book when we come back from the commercial that is coming up in about a minute from now. And Exonation, I'd just like to let you know that our guest of this hour is Dr. Bob Davis, and his website is www.bobdavisspeaks.com. And yes, the good doctor does have a new book and a film video that is available on Amazon.com. And we'll be talking to Dr. Davis more about this on the other side of the break that is coming up very shortly. If you'd like to send us an email, Exonation, please do that, exone@exoneradiotv.com. And you can listen to all the past Exone shows, and I believe there's about over 15,000 shows available for you to listen to without any cost whatsoever by going to the Exxon Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. And that's www.xzbn.net. You're listening to the Exxon, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and from the studios of Classic 1220 CFAJ AM Radio in St. Catharines, Ontario, that gets you all the way through to the province of Ontario, the northern tiers of the states of New York, and the state of Pennsylvania. I'll return on the other side of the short break with my guest this hour, Dr. Bob Davis. So whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back. Mind Games by John Lennon. Great song, great artist, greatly missed around the world. My guest this hour is Dr. Bob Davis, and his website is, are you ready? BobDavisSpeaks.com. Dr. Davis, you've explored phenomena that bridges science and the unexplained. Now, where do you see the line between sensory experience and altered states of consciousness?
Well, altered states of consciousness can occur for a variety of reasons. It could be organic of course, from a stroke,
Mm-hmm.
neurologically based, but it could also come about from extraordinary human experiences that people have. Millions of people who claim to have near-death and out-of-body experiences or develop ESP, interact with unidentified aerial phenomena and even non-human entities or intelligences, so they claim. We're talking about millions of people who sense uh, the the extreme, what we consider spiritual or metaphysical aspects of mysterious events that we can't explain, and we try to in various uh, texts and scholars have tried to for hundreds of years debated about the consciousness and the sensory system and how the neurology of the brain can give rise to consciousness itself, and the debate between whether or not the consciousness is a derivative of the brain, or the brain is a derivative of consciousness, has always been a source of debate among scholars, and we still yet don't have a consensus opinion of how our sensory systems can somehow um, capture the awe, the essence of who we are, uh, uh, the beauty, the love, the joy that we experience, because we can't find that in the brain. That's what's called the hard problem of consciousness. And the question is, why can't we represent the neurological not neurology
Mm-hmm.
of these sensory systems that we experience? That's why people feel that consciousness is primary, because we rule the brain in a sense. We direct the brain to do what we want to do. We have self-intention. We have awareness of being aware. We have, however, a range of different types of interpretations of consciousness and sensory systems based on who you talk to. You talk to a doctor, you're going to get a level of alertness or awareness as a form of consciousness. You talk to a philosopher, you're going to get a spiritual, metaphysical kind of response. A theologian, I can pronounce it, you're going to get
Mm-hmm.
a religious interpretation. Uh, we don't have uniform opinion, obviously. It's discipline specific. But to me, and we have to be careful as consumers of who and we believe and what to believe, because we get such a diversity of opinion. But to me, I think consciousness represents a form of information exchange, and we see information exchange at every level of the universe, from the subatomic scale. Uh, Briefly, the observation alone of a subatomic particle can make its behavior a wave or a particle, just based on the observation of an individual. And this is what Einstein said was spooky action at a distance, as I mentioned earlier. But we also see mental intention being affected by the influence of millions of people drawn to global events,
Mm-hmm.
like 9/11, for instance, that caused random number generators to all of a sudden become non-random, and experiments done during these extraordinary moments, like tsunami incident of 2003, I believe, the election of President Obama. We, Princeton Engineering Anomalous Research Laboratory was conducting experiments at these times and measured the effect of the emotions that resulted in these random number generators that were stationed worldwide, 100 of them or so. They all of a sudden became non-random, statistically significant. I think the thing was it's like a 7.3 sigma, which is a remarkable statistically significant event. Meaning, the chance of it
Hmm.
occurring was like a trillion to one, implying that there is some type of mass consciousness that exists in a sense, as insofar as these types of experiments are concerned, and it's been duplicated too in smaller groups, not only worldwide, by other investigators as well, proving that consciousness is also global in nature and can be imparted via mental intention alone.
Well, wouldn't that also apply or make one believe that consciousness is just proof of God and God is proof of consciousness?
It's an interesting question. There is a religious equation
Hmm.
involved, and it's a matter of how you interpret God.
Yeah.
And God, a lot of people who have a near-death experience feel
Hmm.
that they interact with a supreme being. It's a very common symptom, in fact, of those who have a near-death experience, where they uh, leave their body, enter a tunnel, go to the white light, as they all seem to say,
Hmm.
and in this heavenly realm, this non-earthly realm of a beautiful landscape and music, and they interact with deceased relatives and sense joy, unconditional love, etc., and sense of supreme deity. So, is there a God? Um, I don't know if that answers your question, but
What I was asking, Bob, was that we
mm,
were talking about the power of consciousness during the 9/11 and other examples that you gave, and isn't the same true that when there has been groups of people praying around the world that they too have been able to increase the odds, so to speak?
oh,
Of
no question
yeah.
about, no question. Yes, I agree completely.
Yeah.
In fact, they show people in again, going back to random number
Hmm.
generators, the experiments have shown that people that pray and meditate together influence random number generators, again, going from a random to non-random, as opposed to people who just hanging out, not bonding,
Hmm.
not resonating with each other, through meditation and prayer, as these other people. So you can objectively see this type of synchronization, so to speak, between individuals that's coming together. That that's
Hmm.
you sense it even in uh, any mass gatherings. You tend to sense, I think, this as well. But mass consciousness does play a significant role, especially when it comes to energy healing as well. The sender and the receiver need to believe that healing is possible if healing does occur. And there's been actually some very interesting experiments recently done, showing that in mental intention by a certain individual uh, can can af- positively impact
Mm-hmm.
the metastasis of pancreatic cells in a petri dish. The next step, of course, is humans, but we're still a long ways away from applying, uh, you know, this kind of energy, mental energy, in the form of healing. Although there are people who follow the Bankson method and swear by it,
Yeah.
meaning that that yeah, it's real. Unfortunately, he passed away just I think a week or so ago. Uh, but at the young age of 75. But he proved that he using mental intention, he was able to uh, remove tumors that were introduced, that he introduced, adenocarcinoma tumors were actually reversed and totally cured. Whereas the non-treated rodents who had that same kind of injection,
Hmm.
adenocarcinoma, died within 30 days, as predicted. So Bengtson, I knew him, and I said to him, how do you do it? And he says, Bob, I wish I knew. I just put my hands over them, for a certain amount of time during the day, in this group, but I don't do it in that group. But in the group that I do it, for, they're cured,
Wow.
and he has pictures to prove it too. So, um, and that's the Bankson method. There are many people, millions of people follow the Bankson method, in terms of self-healing, uh, and look, I was in pain for 2 years. I even went to one of surgery cured the problem,
All
but
right, doctor, we're going to have
what?
to stop you
Yeah,
here, and we'll talk about your
sure.
surgery when we come back on the other side of this break. Explanation. Our guest this hour is Dr. Bob Davis. He is a neuroscientist, and we're talking about sensory neuroscience this hour and how it relates to consciousness, and how it relates to past life experiences. I'm sorry, not past life experiences, near death experiences, and how it relates to the paranormal. More with our guest on the other side of this break. And Dr. Davis's website is bobdavisspeaks.com. And we'll be back on the other side of the short break. Don't go away.
We're playing those mind games together, pushing the barrier, planting seeds, playing the mind.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old time movie about a ghost from a wishing well. In a castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet. You know that ghost is me. And I will never be set free as long as I'm a ghost you can't see.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Bob Davis is my special guest of this hour. His website is bobdavisspeaks.com. Tell us about your operation, doctor.
I had sacroiliitis, so they fused the sacrum to the
Mm-hmm.
ilium, but it takes a long time trying to diagnose the problem. That's the problem. Have pain in the back. It could be due to a million different things. So it's often misdiagnosed, and it's misdiagnosed with me for 2 years until they finally figured it out with my help. But it's fine now. But we all have, pain and
Mm-hmm.
and seeks varying degrees and varying ways. And to the point, I had such pain for so long. I sought out, uh, someone who practices the Bankston method for, you're desperate. You can't rely on medication completely. At least you have to have some medication, but you also see alternative methods, and people are Reiki masters, for instance, and or practice the Benson method, or practice qi, qigong, yoga, kundalini, etc. There's many different types of practices that are designed specifically for healing purposes. The question is, we don't have sufficient research in this area to note whether or not their their effectiveness for various ailments, because 40% of the time, 40% of the time, if you believe that whatever somebody is doing to you, giving you a pill, or doing Reiki, or giving you a massage, or whatever it
Hmm.
is, you believe it's going to work, it's going to work 40% of the
But it, but
time.
isn't, but
That's
isn't?
that's a placebo
I
effect,
was just going to
and
ask you
it's
if that was
real.
the placebo
Yeah,
effect. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So what are we supposed to do? If there is a bond between especially if the person is wearing a white coat and is a physician and is a position of authority, we take it more seriously, of course, than not. So the placebo is more effective coming from an expert.
Hmm.
And the problem is, as consumers, we don't know who the expert is. We listen to various types of speakers talking about different paranormal types of events, and we don't know who or what to believe. And that's what is so perplexing about our field, and it's also exciting as well. But it's frustrating in that we understand that something significant is occurring, but what that is is subtle in some degrees to the majority of people, but to some people they have extraordinary human experiences, and it's dramatic, like a near death or out of body experience, or even interacting with non-human entities via the ayahuasca or psychoactive drugs, which is very popular
Sure.
these days.
But how
You
do
know.
how do we explain the people who are not on drugs, who are not under any sort of prescribed or non-prescribed pharmaceutical, when they come back and they tell us about experiences with ghosts, with UFOs, UAPs, and other aspects of the paranormal? How do we justify that within the realm of sensory and neuroscience?
Well, we can't justify it, um, to to the level where the materialist is going to accept it as valid. We can't measure it as well as we want. We can't quantify it, and that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to ESP, we can quantify it, but the effects are very subtle. They exist, and they're statistically significant, but the effect's size is often very small. But hauntings, we have video. We have tons of videos of ghosts. We have tons of video of psychokinesis, of objects moving. We have aports, objects appearing from nowhere, out of nowhere. I once went to at the house of a psychiatrist. He was having a party. I was invited by somebody to come, and I was given an object. It was ceramic in nature, and it was painted yellow. And he says, "This is an aport." And I said, "What's an aport?" He says, "It just appeared." And his wife is also a psychologist. She's a psychiatrist, and the daughter is a college educated, whatever, big shot.
Mm-hmm.
And she agreed. It just appeared out of nowhere in their house, and UFOs behave like this. They appear and disappear. Um, Beings appear and disappear in people's bedrooms. I've known too many well-balanced people who actually claim, I kid you not, that beings, went through their wall and interacted with them while they remained paralyzed from the neck down, and their partner was fast asleep, in bed.
That sounds like
The,
a
the,
typical alien abduction scenario.
it sounds like
Yeah.
an alien abductor scenario, yes, or an interaction with a non-human intelligence, and this is apparently has been going on historically. It's accepted, in every it's accepted throughout history, and in every society. There's mention of the paranormal, and UAP. We see it, indications of it from cave walls to folklore to religious texts. We see references to unidentified aerial phenomena and the paranormal as well. And if you want to read something, you read the paranormal, read the Bible.
Yeah,
I
very,
mean,
very much so. Yeah, it's filled with paranormal events.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. But so that's why it's good to talk to rabbis
Sure.
and priests and get their perspective. And you see, it's more real than science. Science is not designed to address these issues that you talk about with guests on your show, which is fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Newtonian physics that we operate under is not designed to measure this, and so it's left in the hands of the public, and some scientists who are coming around will be becoming more objective about it. The younger scientists that are entering the field, and the internet and social networking is also accelerating to some extent the interest level of spirituality, and that the fact that something significant is indeed occurring, that represents a different reality than what this is. We have this at the 3D reality, but there is something too that lies beyond. And we see evidence of it. At least people do who have near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences, among many other types of extraordinary human experiences that I try to address in my book, the conscious
Yep.
connection and documentary.
Well, let me ask,
So,
let me ask you this, doctor.
yeah,
If here's something that I don't understand. There is a preponderance of percentage that increases exponentially ever since I started doing my show to the present time with people reporting all sorts of paranormal experiences. If
yes,
if this
yeah.
is fact and if this is part of the human psyche, how come not everyone experiences the paranormal?
Well, if you walk into a room of 500 people
Hmm.
and you ask them, did anything unusual occur to you that significantly altered your perspectives and worldviews, and perspectives about yourself and the meaning of life? Please raise your hand. And if they were all being honest, you would see a ton of hands. I can't tell
I
you what
agree with you
exactly what
100. I
what
agree with you.
percent would raise.
I agree with you
Uh,
100%. However, this would be based on that person's own definition of what that event was. Another person who has had the exact same experience as the person who is claiming to have had this life altering experience may not have thought it to be such a life altering experience.
no question
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
No two people are the same.
hmm,
No two near-death experiences
yeah,
are the same. Exactly. But there are, however, similar characteristics, not exactly the same. Because it's unique to the
hmm,
person, but people go through the tunnel. They have a
yeah,
life review, but the life review is different for different people. It's never the same because everybody experiences a different life. And so you not only experience your actions on others, but the reactions of your actions on from others.
Hmm.
Do you understand? You get their perspective, and you learn apparently from it, according to people who have the near-death experience. So it's true. There are unique differences to all of this, and the question is, this is why we need a semantic and thematic analysis of what the essence is of the experience, what people are actually going through, what they are sensing, in order to better understand the nature of the paranormal.
Would you say, doctor, that a percentage of a person's near death experiences is based on their religious philosophical beliefs?
Um, People, there was studies done show that religion doesn't really play into it.
Really?
It's not a precursor.
Hmm.
People will still interact with the deity whether they believe it or
Right.
not. In fact, the in fact studies show that uh, uh, the people that transition from a non-believer to a believer is something like 30% to 70% be, become much more of a believer in a supreme being.
Doctor, I hate
They
to do
be,
this to you again, but I've got to take my final break. Please stand
sure.
by. Exonation, my guest is Dr. Bob Davis. What a gentleman. Visit his website, bobdavisspeaks.com. And we'll both be back on the other side of this short break as we wrap up this first hour tonight in the X Zone. Coming up after Bob Davis leaves us, we'll have another hour of the X Zone, and you're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and of course on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming us at classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
A movie queen to play the scene of bringing all the good things out in. What I feel, I can't say. But my love is there for you any time of day. It's all love that you need, and I'll try my best to make everything succeed. Tell me what is not.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Bob Davis is our very special guest this hour tonight on the X Zone. And if you'd like to find out more about Dr. Davis, please visit his website, bobdavisspeaks.com. Dr. Bob, tell us about your book.
Well, my book is called the Consciousness Connection: Extraordinary Human Experiences and the Nature of Reality, which can be found on Amazon as a paperback or as an ebook. And that served as a basis for, believe it or not, a documentary that I thought would actually occur, and it did. And Gaia International sponsored the documentary called The Consciousness Connection Foundations, and people can view that on Amazon Video, or consciousfilm.info. But the point is, we try to integrate interviews with leading scholars and
Mm-hmm.
get that firsthand testimony from those who've also had an extraordinary human experience, and we advocated for basically a paradigm shift that recognizes consciousness as an active participant in life, and it stands in contrast to the conventional view that reduces consciousness to pure biochemical processes within the brain. Are you nothing but biochemical processes? Processes, is that all you are? You know, I hate this to say yes. I'm I'm just I'm just biochemical process. If you think about it, it actually sounds funny. You know,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I'm more than that. Just a collection of 100 billion neurons between my ears. There's 3.5 pound mass of protein and fat. That's just between the ears. I'd like to think I'm more than that, and that's why I consider myself an idealist. And we've interviewed many idealists in the film, The Conscious Connection, and implying again that consciousness is primary. Consciousness is more than just that 3.5 pound mass of fat between my ears. It consciousness is not a derivative of the brain. The brain is a derivative of consciousness, but we need Rob, an interdisciplinary approach within the scientific paradigm that that formally acknowledges these experiences as being genuine. And when we're talking about near death, which is accepted in the medical community,
Hmm.
near death experiences are. The question is, what does it
Sure.
represent?
But, Doctor,
Uh,
why then hasn't there been more critical research being done into the field of consciousness?
that's a good point. There is consciousness studies, and it is being studied, but not by as many people as you'd like to think.
Hmm.
And consciousness is often studied, a little bit in different disciplines, and not necessarily as a major of where you can have a PhD in consciousness studies. That doesn't exist. Consciousness is represented in different disciplines differently, as I kind of alluded to earlier.
Right.
So it's nebulous. It's very discipline specific, and that's the annoyance of consciousness. Um, and that's why we'll never. I shouldn't say never because
Hmm.
the weirdest things happen. We need to have that one uniform, holistic opinion approach of understanding what consciousness represents and what consciousness is. And to me, it is the essence of being. It is how you feel right now. To me, that's not the brain. I am in control of my brain. If you wanted to right now, Rob, you could turn me off. It's you telling your brain what to do, not your brain telling you what to do. You can, in a sense, predict the future. You can. People have to understand that they can be in better control of their lives if we facilitate this kind of understanding as early on in life as possible. I truly believe that, and you can be in better control of what you do, your future actions. That is, if you understand that your gut feeling, for instance, represents your unconscious mind, which actually predicts future events. We have seen experiments in ESP, for instance, demonstrate that the unconscious mind manifested physiologically through breathing rates, through galvanic skin response, respiratory system responses, EKGs. We see that they react appropriately. They turn on much more aggressively, um, if a stimulus is going to be presented versus when a stimulus is not going to be presented. In other words, our unconscious mind informs the conscious mind about 1 to 10 seconds before it actually happens. So we know the truth before we're aware of the truth. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But
The other unconscious mind knows the answer to that, and that's your gut feeling. That's why sometimes when you say, I, I have a feeling in my stomach this
mhm,
is the right thing to do,
yeah.
or if it doesn't feel right, I think everybody can relate to that. Go with it. Don't denounce it. That's your unconscious mind.
I'd
I don't
like
know
to
why.
ask you. I'd like to
Yeah,
ask you this final question, Doctor.
yeah.
You've
Sure.
spoken on topics such as survival of consciousness after death. From a neuroscientific standpoint, what might support that possibility?
I always thought it was 50-50. Now I think it's more like a 95 versus 5 in terms of believing in life after death. I think that mm, uh, it- studies done show that mediumship
Hmm.
is probably the best evidence of life after death. At the Windbridge Institute, their mediums there can accurately determine qualities of a deceased person's life in front of the sitter, the person who is being read.
Hmm.
They're accurate to about 80 to 85% of the time.
All right, I'm going to stop you there for a second because I'm going to ask you this question. Is it possible that the person who is sitting in front of the medium is just telepathically or using ESP feeding the sitter, feeding the reader who is not contacting the other side, but is simply receiving the data from the person sitting on the other side of them using ESP?
Yeah, yeah, excellent. That's called the super psi hypothesis, the super ESP hypothesis. Exactly. Can it be ESP?
Hmm.
You cannot distinguish the two. But the point is, even if it is ESP, that's remarkable alone.
Definitely.
That's proving ESP.
Definitely.
So one or the other, take a choice. I don't know if it's definitely a deceased person
Hmm.
who's being read, or if yes. And I was going to mention it too. I'm glad you said that. Or it reading the person's mind and extracting that information from the person.
Right, exactly.
And
Doctor, how? I've got about 2 minutes left. What's in your future? What are you going to be doing in your research? Are you doing any more books? Are you doing any more videos?
well, actually, doing a pitch sheet
Mm-hmm.
for Gaia for our next uh, uh, documentary, The Conscious Connection Near-Death Experiences is the next one. Ours now is the Conscious Connection Foundations, is a general overview of parapsychology and the paranormal. Now we're focusing on specific uh, events, extraordinary human experiences like the near-death
Right.
experience.
All right, Doctor. I want to thank you very much for your time. It's a great pleasure talking to you, sir, and I look forward to the next time you rejoin us back here in the X Zone. So until then, stay well and thank you for being there.
Thank you very much.
X Zone Nation, from the mechanics of the brain to the mysteries of consciousness. Dr. Bob Davis reminds us that science and curiosity don't have to be at odds. They can actually walk hand in hand into the unknown. And if you'd like to learn more about his research, books, or upcoming appearances, visit his website, www.bobdavisspeaks.com. And once again, that is bobdavisspeaks.com. Dr. Davis, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us tonight. And to our listeners, stay curious. question everything, and keep your minds open. Well, I come back from this short commercial break at the top of the hour. We're going to be changing the topic to ghost hunting, the paranormal tours, and much more when we go into the Old West, talking about Tucson, Arizona. Next here on the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And if once again to contact Dr. Bob or to visit his website, www.bobdavisspeaks.com. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.